Tuesday. Today was our first day as safety patrols. Me and Rowley don't technically have stations like all the other patrols. So that means we don't have to stand out in the freezing cold for an hour before school. But that didn't stop us from coming to the cafeteria for the free hot chocolate they hand out to the other patrols before homeroom. Another great perk is that you get to show up 10 minutes late for first period. I'm telling you, I forgot it make with this safety patrol thing. At 12:15, me and Rowley left school and walked the kindergartners home. The whole trip ate up 45 minutes, and there were only 20 minutes of free algebra left when we got back. Walking the kids home was not sweat, but one of the kindergartners started to smell a little funny, and I think maybe he had an accident in his pants. He tried to let me know about it, but I just stared straight ahead and kept walking. I'm taking these kids home, but believe me, I didn't sign up for any diaper duty. February. Wednesday. Today is snowed for the first time this winter, and school was cancelled. We were supposed to have a test in free algebra, and I've kind of slacked off ever since I became a safety patrol. So I was psyched. I called Rowley and told him to come over. Me and him have been talking about building the world's biggest snowman for the past couple of years now. And when I say the world's biggest snowman, I'm not kidding. Our goal is to get into the Guinness Book of World Records. But every time we've gotten serious about going to the record, all the snow has melted and we've missed our window of opportunity. So this year, I wanted to get started right away. When Rowley came over, we started rolling the first snowball to make the base. I figured the base was going to have to be at least 8 feet tall on its own if we wanted to have a shot at breaking the record. But the snowball got real heavy, and we had to take a bunch of breaks in between rolls so we could catch our breath. During one of our breaks, Mom came outside to go to the grocery store. but our snowball was blocking in her car in. So we got a little free labor out of her. After we braked, me and Rowley pushed that snowball until we couldn't push it any farther. But when we looked behind us, we saw the mess we had made. The snowball had gotten so heavy that it tore up all the sod that had just laid down this fall. I was hoping it would snow a few more inches and cover up our tracks, but just like that, it stopped snowing. Our plan to build the world's biggest snowman was starting to fall apart. So I came up with a better idea for our snowball. Every time it snows, the kids from Worley Street use our hill for sledding, even though this isn't their neighborhood. So tomorrow morning, when the Worley Street kids come marching up our hill, me and Rowley are going to teach those guys a lesson. Thursday, when I woke up this morning, the snow was already starting to melt. So I told Rowley to hurry up and get down to my house. While I was waiting for Rowley to show up, I watched Manny trying to build a snowman out of the piddly crumbs of snow that were left over from our snowball. It was actually kind of pathetic. I really couldn't help doing what I did next. Unfortunately for me, right at that moment, Dad was at the front window. Dad was already mad at me for tearing up the sod. So I knew I was in for it. I heard the garage door open and I saw Dad coming outside. He marched right out carrying a snow shovel, and I thought I was going to have made a run for it. But Dad was heading for my snowball, not me. And in less than a minute, he reduced all our hard work to nothing. Rowley came by a few minutes later. I thought he might actually get a kick out of what happened. But I guess he had his heart set on rolling the snowball down the hill. So he was really mad. But get this, Rowley was mad at me for what Dad did. I told Rowley he was being a big baby and we got in a serving match. Right when it looked like we was going to get in an all-out fight, we got ambushed from the street. It was a hit and run by the Worley Street kids, and if Missy Levin, my English teacher, was there, I'm sure she would have said the whole situation was ironic. Wednesday, today at school they announced There's an opening for the cartoonist job in the school paper. There's only one comic slot, and up until now, this kid named Brian Little has been hugging it all to himself. Brian has this comic called Wacky Dog, and when it started off, it was actually really funny. But lately, Brian's been using his script to handle his personal business. I guess that's why they gave him the X. As soon as I heard the news, I knew I had to try out Wacky Doll, make Brian Little a celebrity at our school, and I wanted to get in on some of that kind of fame. I had a taste of what it's like to be famous at my school when I won horrible honorable mention in this anti-smoking contest they had. All I did was raise the picture from one of Roderick's heavy metal magazines, but luckily no one ever found out. The kids who won first place is named Chris Carney. And what kind of ticks me off is that Chris smokes at least a pack of cigarettes a day. Thursday, me and Riley decided to team up and do a cartoon together. So after school today, he came over to my house and we got to work. We banged out a bunch of characters real quick, but that turned out to be the easy part. When we tried to think up some joke, we kind of hit a wall. I finally came up with a good solution. We make up a cartoon with the punchline of every strip is Zooey Mama. That way we wouldn't get bogged down with having to write actual jokes and we could concentrate on the pictures. For the first couple of strips, I did the writing and drew the characters and Rowley drew the boxes around the picture. Rowley started complaining that he didn't have enough to do, so I let him write a few of the scripts. But to be honest with you, there was a pretty obvious drop in quality once Rowley started doing the writing. Eventually, I got kind of sick of the Zooey Mama idea, and I pretty much let Rowley take over the whole operation. And believe it or not, Rowley's drawing skills were worse than his writing skills. I told Rowley maybe we should come up with some new ideas, but he just wanted to keep writing Zooey Mamas. Then he packed up his comic and went home, which were fine by me. I don't really want to be partnered up with a kid who doesn't draw noses anyway. Friday, after Rowley left yesterday, I really got to work on some comics. I came up with this character called Gretchen the Grittin, and I got on a roll. I must banged out 20 strips, and I didn't even break a sweat. The great thing about this Gretchen the Gretchen, the Gretchen comics is that with all the idiots running around my school, I will never run out of new material. When I got to school today, I took my comics to Mr. Ira's office. He's the teacher who runs the school newspaper, but when I went to turn my strips in, I saw that there was a pile of comics from other kids who were trying to for the job. Most of them were really bad, so I wasn't too worried about the competition. One of the comics called Dumb Teachers, and it was written by this kid named Bill Dritt. Bill is always in detention, so I guess he has a bone to pick with just about every teacher in the school, including Mr. Ira. So I'm not too worried about the chances of Bill's comic getting in either. There are actually one or two decent comics in the bin, but I slipped them under a pile of paperwork on Mr. Ira's desk. Hopefully those ones won't turn up until I'm in high school. Thursday. Today during morning announcements, I got the news I was hoping for. And the new cartoonist from the school paper is Greg Hadley. The paper came out today at lunchtime, and everyone was reading it. I really wanted to pick up a copy to see my name in print, but I decided to just play it cool for a while instead. I sat at the end of the lunch table to get so there would be plenty of room for me to start signing autographs for my new fans, but nobody was coming over to tell me how great the comics was, and I started to get the feeling something was wrong. I grabbed a paper and went into the bathroom to check it out, and when I saw my comic, I practically had a heart attack. Mr. Ira told me he had made some minor edits to my comic. I thought he just meant he fixed spelling mistakes or stuff like that, but he totally butchered it. The comic he ruined was one of my favorite ones too. In the original, Gretchen the Gretchen is taking the math test and he accidentally ate it. And then the teacher yells at him for being such a moron. By the time Mr. Ira was done with it, you practically couldn't recognize it it at the same script. So I'm pretty sure I won't be signing autographs anytime soon. March. March. Wednesday, me and Rowley were enjoying our hot chocolate in the cafeteria with the rest of the patrols today, and there was an announcement on the loudspeaker. Rowley Jefferson report to Mr. Whiskey's office immediately. Rowley went down to Mr. Whiskey's office, and when Rowley came back 15 minutes later, he looked really shaken up. Apparently, Mr. Whiskey got a call from a parent who said they witnessed Rowley terrorizing the gardeners when he was supposed to be walking them home from school, and Mr. Whiskey was really mad about it. Rowley said Mr. Whiskey yelled at him for about 10 minutes and said his action disrespected the badge. You know, I think I might just know what this is all about. Last week, Rowley had to take a quiz during fourth period, so I walked the gardeners home on my own. It had rained that morning, and there was a lot of worms on the sidewalk, so I decided to have some fun with the kids. But some neighborhood lady saw what I was doing, and she yelled at me from her front porch. It was Missy Ivan, who is friends with Rowley's mom. She must have thought I was Rowley because I would be borrowing his coat, and I wasn't about to correct her either. Rowley Jefferson, the principal, is going to hear about this. Yes, ma'am. I forgot about the whole incident until today. Anyway, Mr. Whiskey told Rowley he's going to have to apologize the kindergartners tomorrow morning, and that he suspended from patrols for a week. I knew I should probably just tell Mr. Whiskey it was me who chased the kids with the worms, but I wasn't ready to set the record straight just yet. I knew if I confessed, I'd lose my hot chocolate privileges, and that right there was enough to make me keep quiet for the time being. At dinner tonight, Mom could tell something was bothering me, so she came up to my room afterward to talk. I told her I was in a tough situation and I didn't know what to do. I got to give Mom credit for how she handled it. She didn't try to pry and get all the details. All she said was that you should try to do the right thing because it's our choices that make us who we are. I figured that's really decent advice, but I'm still not 100% sure what I'm doing to do tomorrow. Thursday. Well, I was up all night tossing and turning over this Rowley situation, but I finally made up my mind. I decided the right thing to do was to just let Rowley take one for the team this time around. I'm sorry I terrorized your children. One on the way home from school, I came clean with Rowley and told him the whole truth about what happened and how it was me who chased the kids with the worms. Then I told him there were lessons we could both learn from this. I told him I learned to be more careful about what I do in front of Missy Ivan's house, and what he learned a, va- a valu- valuable lesson too. This, which is this: be careful about who you lend your coat to. I guess this had been a learning experience for both of us. To be honest with you, my message didn't seem to be getting through to Rowley. We were supposed to hang out after school today, but he said he was just going to go home to take a nap. I couldn't really blame him, because if I didn't have any hot chocolate this morning, I wouldn't have had enough energy either. When I got home, Mom was waiting for me at the front door. Did you do the right thing? Yeah. Mom took me out to get some ice cream at a special treat. And what this whole episode has taught me is that every once in a while, it's not such a bad idea to listen to your mother. Tuesday, there was another announcement on the loudspeaker today, and to be honest with you, I kind of figured this one was coming. Greg Hadley, please report to Mr. Whiskey's office. I knew it was just a matter of time before I got busted for what happened last week. When I got to Mr. Whiskey's office, he was really mad. Mr. Whiskey told me that an anonymous source had informed him that I was the real culprit in the worm chasing incident. Then he told me I was relieved of my safety patrol duties, effective immediately. Well, it doesn't take a detective to figure out that the anonymous source was Rowley. I can't believe Rowley went and backstabbed me like that. While I was sitting there getting chewed down by Mr. Whiskey, I was thinking I need to remember to give my friend a lecture about loyalty. Later on today, Rowley got reinstated as a patrol, and get this, he actually got a promotion. Mr. Whiskey said Rowley had exhibited dignity under false suspicion. I thought about really letting Rowley have it for writing me out like that, but then I realized something. In June, all the officers in the safety patrols go on a trip in Six Flags and they get to take along one friend. I need to make sure Rowley knows I'm his guide. Let me get this for you. Caption Tuesday. Like I said before, the worst part of getting kicked off safety patrols is losing your hot chocolate privileges. Every morning I go to the back door of the cafeteria so Rowley can hook me up. But either my friend has gone deaf or he's too busy kissing the other officers but to notice me at the window. In fact, now that I think of it, Rowley has been totally giving me the cold shoulder lately, and that's really lame because if I recall correctly, he's the one that sold me out. Even though Rowley has been the total jerk lately, I tried to break the ice with him today anyway, but even that didn't seem to work. April, Friday. Ever since the worm incident, Rowley has been hanging out with Colin Lee every day after school. What really stinks is that Colin is supposed to be my backup friend. Those guys are acting totally ridiculous. Today, Rowley and Colin were wearing these matching t-shirts and it makes me just about want to vomit. After dinner tonight, I saw Rowley and Colin walking up the hill together, jamming it up. Colin had his overnight bag, so I knew they were going to do a sleepover at Rowley's. And I thought, well, two can play at that game. The best way to get back at Rowley was to get a new best friend of my own. But unfortunately, the only person who came to mind right at that moment was Franklin. I went up to Franklin's with my overnight bag so Rowley could see I had other friend options too. When I got there, Franklin was in his front yard stopping the kite with a stick. That's when I started to think maybe this wasn't the best idea after all. But Rowley was in his front yard and he was watching me, so I knew there was no turning back. I invited myself into Franklin's house. His mom said she was excited to see Franklin with a playmate, which was a term I was not too enthusiastic about. Me and Franklin went upstairs to his room. Franklin tried to get me to play Twitter with him, so I made sure I stayed 10 feet away from him at all times. I decided that I should just put the plug on the stupid idea to go home. But every time I looked out the window, Rowley and Collins were still in Rowley's front yard. I didn't want to leave until the guy went back inside, but things started to get out of hand with Franklin really quickly. When I was looking out the window, Franklin broke into my backpack and ate the whole bag of jelly beans I had in there. Franklin's one of these kids who's not supposed to eat any sugar. So 2 minutes later, he was bouncing off the walls. Franklin started acting like a total maniac, and he chased me all around his upstairs. I kept thinking he was going to come down off his sugar high, but he didn't. Eventually, I locked myself in his bedroom to wait him out. Around 11:30, it got quiet out in the hallway. That's when Franklin slipped a piece of paper under the door. I picked it up and read it. Dear Gregory, I'm very sorry I chased you with a booger on my finger. Here, I put it on this paper so you can get me back. That's the last thing I remember before I blacked out. I came to my senses a few hours later. After I woke up, I cracked the door open and I heard snoring coming from Franklin's room. So I decided to make a run for it. Mom and Dad was not happy with me for getting them out of bed at 2 in the morning. But by that point, I could really care less. Okay. See you next time.